This is the late stage video. We're looking at around 12 weeks from fracture, although we're taking it at our own pace, so if that's longer, that's fine. This is the most aggressive and dynamic stage of our rehab. You should be feeling pretty confident on your wrist day to day and ready to push it to the sort of level and stress that you would be putting it through were you to fall on it again. So now we're going to do a wheelbarrow exercise. I'm sure you've all done that as kids. It may seem a little bit juvenile, but it's actually really great for your wrist. With me picking up Natalie's legs, it forces all the stress through the wrist specifically. So if you were to have a lower limb injury, we teach you how to walk again, which is full weight bearing, and this is essentially the equivalent. If you've got enough notes, you can make it into a race a little bit later on, but we're just going to start with doing this to start with. So Natalie, if you can get down, that's great. I know how to do this. So stress going through the wrist there, and then you start to walk forward. So this is another strengthening exercise, but it's going to be done in the late stage. We've got a board here to use as the weight. Depending obviously the type of board you've got, it's going to be relatively heavy, but you are obviously going to need to be able to pick up the board, put it on lifts, etc. So it's going to be a skill that you're going to need to be able to use. We're going to isolate the wrist specifically with this though, although you would use the rest of your arm normally. What I'm going to get Natalie to do is just use her wrist to flex and extend. So Natalie, if you hold the board here, and then just lift it up and down. Nice slow fluid movement. Okay? Yeah. And great. So we can do about 10 of those with a 30-second rest in between. Try 3 sets and working your way up. Exercise is more of a test. This isn't something you want to repeat over and over again, because of course this is how you did your injury in the first place, but it is something you're going to need to encounter without injuring yourself in case you do fall. So we've got Natalie back in wrist braces, again how you should be before, simulating a real snowboarding environment. This time Natalie is going to fall onto the floor, onto the hard surface rather than a crash mat. We've provided a crash mat here just for the sake of Natalie's knees. So Natalie, if you can take a wide snowboarding stance, down and then fall forward for me. That's great. And then we're going to do the same but falling backwards. You turn around, wide stance and fall backwards for me. That's great. With the last exercise, it's really important to take it at your own pace. If you don't feel confident about doing it, don't do it. Regress to some of the earlier exercises. It's really important to make sure that you don't do it if you don't feel confident. The risk of re-injury is just too high. If you have done it, however, you're ready to go back to boarding, which is great news. A quick word on injury prevention. I'm sure you're all aware of the importance of wrist braces. Yes, there's been some controversy about them, whether they redirect the force up or down your arm and cause the fracture there instead, but there's loads of evidence to show that they absorb a lot of the impact and reduce a lot of injuries. Of course, if the impact is just that high, it's going to cause a fracture anyway, but it's really, really worth wearing them. In terms of buying a wrist guard, the most important thing is to make sure that it's got a degree of flexibility within the insert. It has a protective rigid plate on the outside, so this surface here, and that it extends some distance up the forearm. The shorter wrist braces are designed for those falling on concrete, which of course is very different to snow. When you're ready to go back to boarding, pick a day with good snow. I'm not suggesting you become a fair weather rider, but poor snow and weather conditions can cause the snow to be unpredictable, and you don't want to fall on your first day back. Also, don't drag out your days. It's been shown about 69% of injuries occur in the afternoon when you're fatigued and tired, but also the snow conditions are worse. And finally, confidence. I've mentioned it throughout the 3 videos time and time again, but it's so important. Don't do something if you're not confident, because you'll fall differently, you'll do things differently, and you may well end up re-injuring yourself. Even if it takes a little bit of time to build up, or a little bit of self-talk, it really, really will help. Okay, I hope you found these exercises useful and are ready to go back to boarding. Thank you to Calcott Manor for letting me use their gym, and good